There has been this growing narrative over I don't know how long that women are basically just trying to siphon resources from men, whether it's money or babies or homes or jewelry or whatever the case is. What if all of that is actually wrong? What if the idea and the narrative that we have about all of these things is wrong and we are making really misaligned and unintelligent decisions based on that wrong idea?
Not only that, we have a wrong idea, plus we don't have all the data. So whether it is someone baby trapping or whether it is someone who is struggling with their own self-worth, how many of us have really gotten great role models that kind of weaves a different narrative? That's what we're going to be talking about in this episode.
Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Emilia.
I had
Kinda nervous.
Emilia dying laughing before we jumped in and we do the cold hooks. She was like, "So what do you want to start with the opener?" And I said a pretty crass comment and her jaw hit the floor. I'm not going to repeat what I said, but it was pretty funny.
Definitely. It was.
Go ahead.
And I'm nervous about this episode because one of the things that I shared with Bianca is that as two very empowered females who have a lot of influence and who have a lot of impact on, again, we're grateful, but people all over the world, over 170 countries, right? Like, we do know that our words carry weight in the hearts and lives of so many people. And we are coming from a place of professional concern as women on this topic, and we get to see the behind the scenes of so many lives. And like I said to you, Bianca, before we got started in this episode, the constantly always doing research, always learning, always growing. And with the clients that we have now, we just so happen to be in that age frame where we have a lot of clients that are coming to us that are in that quote unquote baby making years, if you will. And I say that half joking and also half seriously, because what the heck are the baby making years? Number one. And number two, what defines baby making years? And so as we kind of get into this episode, obviously you and I are going to have some banter about this. And I'm nervous and excited because of the fact that I know that when I was younger, we didn't have podcasts of two female empowered women who could actually bring rationality, positive role model, like leadership into the fold around this topic. And number two, weren't afraid to talk about taboo topics, but women who are empowered and will talk about taboo topics out of a place of concern and love and empathy for the community that we hold so dearly. Because we see trends, we see the data, and we read the research. So where do we want to go from here?
I do need to start with the disclaimer. A lot of people are going to hear this episode, they're going to turn it on, they're going to see what we look like, and they're going to say, probably toward the middle or the end of this episode, easy for the two of you to say. So easy for you to say. You guys look the way that you do and you're empowered. Of course you can talk about this, but that's not my circumstances. And what's likely going to happen is you're going to probably get upset with us and you're going to want to turn this off and you're going to want to say, F them. They don't know my story. And I don't take that away from you. If that is your feeling, I honor that feeling. And could you still hear what we're saying, even though that might be true? Even though we don't know your circumstances, even though you don't look like we do, even though you might have comparisons and feelings coming up about us versus you, can you still hear what we're saying? Because Emilia and I we use a lot of personal stories, but we're not talking from our opinion. Almost everything we share on this show is based on data and facts and research. And so this isn't us coming here on some high horse trying to tell you what you should be doing because we are better than you. This is coming from a space of, we've been studying this for a really long time. Emilia more than me. I have to give her credit where it's due. We've been studying this for a very long time, and there are common and repetitive traps and cycles and circumstances that have been perpetuated over and over and over again. And we're just some of the first ones actually willing to talk about it. So I honor your feelings and try to hear what we're saying anyways.
I think that that's really important to say, because you and I have both gotten plenty of people, which again, if that's the reaction that you're having, like, I'm grateful for that, because that means you're feeling, right? Like, that's great. You have a pulse. You're feeling something. There's something underneath that you got to explore. So even if it's with an FU towards us, like, at least you're exploring that. The world's going to be a better place by you actually getting off autopilot. So let's go. Feel the feels.
Just don't project it on anybody.
Don't project
you know
it on
what
anyone,
I mean?
for sure.
Which is,
because, you know,
I mean, which honestly is a big aspect of what we're going to be diving into your face.
Okay. Should we just get into the meat and potatoes?
Just get into it. The projection. Okay.
Projecting. Let's buckle up. Okay. So one of the qualms that I have to share, that I again, I am coming from a place of professional concern. And I say that because I really want to connect into the empathetic part that hears our clients, our community, individuals behind the scenes that are in real life situations, that are coming to us in confidence, sharing with us their real life stories that they're going through. And the most vulnerable parts of them are being shared with us. And I'm so freaking grateful for that. And that will never not be the case because of who we are at Evolve and what we pride ourselves in, which is making sure that we and our clients have a psychologically safe space, a respite from the rest of the world that is extremely judgmental, that is conniving, that is shameful, like, not shameful, but shame riddling, and just has all that when you walk right out the door. So here at Evolve, that's that respite. And with the stories that we've heard that I know are not going to stop, I am extremely concerned about how little we are taking into consideration, we as human beings, we as women in particular, shout out to my homies. No, but for real, how little data we're bringing into the scope of our personal lives. So obviously this episode, right, we named it The Secret About Why Women Are Baby Trapping. The truth is, it's not just women. Men are baby trapping as well. And for anyone that maybe is not necessarily familiar with that term, Bianca, why don't we just give a shared definition? How would you describe baby trapping?
Baby trapping is having a child in order to keep or maintain a relationship or a specific self-image.
Fair. Yeah, it's kind of like, and I know this is like a gross parallel, but when couples are struggling and they're going through it, and then all of a sudden, instead of actually working on their relationship, they're like, let's get a dog. And they think that that's going to solve the challenges that they're having. It is not at all addressing the root cause of the issues. And I know that that's, like I said, a gross parallel because a dog versus a child, I just so happen to have really strong feelings around dogs, right? Like I think they're sentient beings. Anywho, human babies are a big different.
We do that with babies too. How many people have had a horrible relationship or marriage and it's like, let's have a baby, that'll fix it.
Not only that, but are literally in the throngs of the worst part of their life, and then have the thought come in, well, my life is pretty bad, but I have the ability to have a child, so I'm going to do that with or without the other person's knowing of that's my intentions. And my actual thoughts, if I were to actually have someone tuning into my unconscious thoughts, are I actually don't believe in my ability to create a better, brighter future on my own accord. I actually am incredibly so scared of what my life would look like if I stepped outside of this narrative that as a woman, it is to have children or to have a career and not children, or to do something different than the quote unquote cultural norm of having children and living that life. The unconscious narrative that showcases I actually have no self-worth, and I don't believe that I am even deserving of living out my full life as a woman unless I have children or unless I bring children into this world. And I actually really don't want my partner to leave, or I don't want my partner to do something different. And I want them to stay around because I actually don't know how to generate revenue or income for myself. And therefore, me having a child with them is probably the best thing that I could do to not actually have to face my biggest fears and my biggest insecurities.
And then you have religion reinforcing that even further, that your sole job on this earth is to procreate. And if you're not doing that, you're going against the will of God and you're going to burn in hell forever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
where did we get that idea from?
Wait, but then on top of that, you said something earlier. Don't forget, by the time that you're what? And again, we could talk to people, and we have, that are in their 20s. If you're not by 28 with a child and a ring on your finger, right? The social conditioning, or if you're not by 30 years old with kids and whatever, right? The social and narrative generating that, depending on your reference group, you feel like a loser if you don't. So obviously, even though you kind of hate your partner right now and you know they're not the person for you, let's just give it a go as if it's an ice cream that you can try and then, it is gone after. Like, we're talking about real life situations where not just on top of religion, on top of our own self constructs, we're talking about people in the real world making a long-term decision in one split second that has a lasting implication, not just on them, not just on the baby that's coming into the world, but every single person, resource that baby, that person consumes and touches. And then the legacy continues, the statistics that go after that. So
It's one of the most selfish things you could ever do. Yeah. Like, honestly, I'm going to sound so cruel saying this, but honestly, like, how dare you do that? If you don't have your life together, how dare you bring a child into this world and try to assume responsibility of another life and the outcome of the life of that child who is eventually going to become an adult? And to your point, all of the consequences and every single system at play that is now going to get impacted by that decision. There's a reason Emilia and I do not have children right now, and we would be better parents than the majority of people out there because of how self-conscious we are and how responsible we are. And yet we're the two not having children right now. That tells you something.
So there's going to be so many people that will hear that. And I'm glad that you said what you did. I'm so glad you said what you did, because there's many people's thoughts that I'm hearing literally right now that say, well, when are you ever ready to have a child? And I can't stand having conversations with people about this from like when you actually start to like look at the data and the research. And I was recently having a conversation with someone recently about this, about how it's never a quote unquote good time. And while I can understand someone's thoughts and opinions and where they might be coming from, I also want to invite people into the consideration that might not be going across people's minds because they're just, like I said, drifting unconsciously throughout their life and likely self-serving as a result of them just trying to survive. What happens when you don't actually prepare for the, I was doing some research recently because I obviously have some clients that are going through it, going through their own experiences and the expenses, even alone, of having a child I don't think people actually ever do that research before they even consider having sex, like actual intercourse. So anyone that's listening to this, right, if you're a parent and maybe you went through this whole thing of like, oh my goodness, I was not ready to bring this child in the world. I'm so grateful that I did, and all that, like, awesome. I'm glad you did your best, and I'm happy that your child is hopefully thriving. And one of the things that I get super concerned with, especially as someone who has consciously not gone down that path, specifically because I understand the statistics and the implications and the mental health challenges and also the resources that are burned up by having someone baby trapping another person, is the irrationality around fertility. So this is the one cognitive distortion, the emotional rationalization around having a child and specifically baby trapping someone. So I want to pull the curtain behind the scenes, a couple conversations that I've had with men and women over the last 2 years. And I'll keep this short, but the irrationality around fertility. So one of the things that's awesome, there's an exponential increase in technology and information sharing. And with that, what we tend to forget as people who don't think a layer deeper, because it's cognitively expensive and we're just trying to survive, we don't realize that the snapshot that we see on Instagram, we don't go into this whole research rabbit hole of trying to understand what that one statistic about fertility actually was shared as a result of whatever narrative was trying to be provoked. So for example, there's this one social media influencer who I know just so happens to benefit by people thinking that they're going to be infertile when they go into their 30 years old. And so their supplements that they're selling are to help women make sure that they are fertile by the time that they want to have babies.
Hello, my name is Bree. So I would say my experience at Evolve has been absolutely amazing. I have learned and grown and done so many things that I didn't imagine that I'd be doing just over a year ago. So I'm really happy to be a part of the team, and I encourage anyone who has the opportunity to join. This is an experience that I don't think I would have gotten anywhere else. So it's definitely unique, and there's so many like-minded people, whether it's on the team or in our community, that can be by your side and support you. So that is an awesome experience.
Now, said influencer has been mentioned in several conversations that I've had with people that allow the emotions of the fear of not being able to have a baby in their 30s, allow them to baby trap the person that they've been with now, even though they know that that person's not going to be a great father, even though they know that they're not ready and have literally admitted up and down sideways that they cannot even imagine bringing a child into this world. But because of the fear that's being implanted based on that one tiny quote unquote statistic that, by the way, is not actually accurate, no one's going down and researching what this research is actually saying. So like, for example, the fertility, like how many people, Bianca, have you heard? Especially because we can say this, we're women right now. We're in the quote unquote baby making years. People will look at us and like, why aren't you and Alan not married? Why don't you guys have kids yet? You and your family, right? Like, why you're never going to find anyone, this and that. Like, it's like, whoa, the narratives that are coming from people left, right, sideways around how we should live our life is really fascinating. And the stats, right? The fertility, the narrative that's being planted into our consciousness about us as women, that we're not going to be able to have children into our 30s, or that there will be severe implications with our pregnancies when we decide if that's our choice, is like out of this world. It's not real. It's not rooted in any science. As a matter of fact, the irrationality around fertility is literally sliced and diced so that you can go and buy specific dietary supplements. What?
And it's also to keep women small, because if you have a child at a young age, then you're not going to go out into the workforce. You're not going to challenge authority. You're not going to challenge the patriarchy and, God forbid, become your own person, not under the patriarchal guise of your only job here is to open up your legs and have a baby put inside of you and then emotionally take care of a man.
The stat, I remember I pulled this up before because I had been doing some research on this because I just heard something so absurd come out of someone's mouth that it just like again I was like, what research is underneath that? What clinical data is underneath that? It's like, well, how many times have we heard well, I am getting into my late 20s, so I need to have a baby soon because I'm kind of getting up there, as if like you're biologically not optimized to have children. Like it's like, in what, like, oh well, my eggs are getting old. It's like, what is actually, where did that come from? And then someone started to like blabbermouth about their fertility rates are going down and blah blah blah, and it's like, interesting. Have you ever done actual like any research onto what that research paper was denoting? No. So I go in and I do some research. The total fertility rates birth per women over the years, and this is, I'm going to link this in the show notes because I want women and I want men who might think that their partner is going to baby trap them, or women who might be considering baby trapping someone because of this irrational fear of that your eggs are old or you're getting too old to have babies, and therefore there might be complications and you might not be able to have another child, or whatever the narrative is. That's absolute BS. You're not thinking in statistics. So this data is between 1963 and the most recent data that was pulled was in 2023. And yes, while the average rate of fertility is declining per woman, which is like from the 1963, I believe it was like something around 5 births average per woman to around, I think it's between 2 and 3 births per woman. What that stat is actually showing, it's not about how your eggs are going bad, if you will, or your biological systems are just shutting down on you. The scope of the research is actually so much bigger than that irrational fear that has been planted into your consciousness to disempower you as a woman in this world. There are 3 major areas that this research article points to that I can't help but share why there's a rapid decline in fertility rates. People just think that it's because your eggs are going bad. It's not true. Number 1, the biggest contributing factor to why women are not having more children and why quote unquote fertility rates are going down is because of the fact that women are actually getting empowered and increased access to education that helps them understand what other opportunities they could have in this world, i.e. increased labor participation, right? Going to work, doing certain things, adding service in the world outside of family. That the empowerment of women is number 1 reason why fertility rates are going down, not because your eggs do not they have a shelf life. Number 2 is the declining rates of child mortality. Back in the 1960s and beyond, you would have a couple of children, again, between 5 and 6, and the child had an increased probability of dying, mortality, because our healthcare systems weren't really, really good now. So when you look at that, and then you look at our increase in child care and delivery and everything, you look at the medicine that we have and the technology that we have now, that's the second factor that's contributing to declining fertility rates. Again, not because you can't have another child beyond 32, or not because your eggs have a shelf life or what have you. And then the third one is the rising cost of bringing up children, right? With the decline of child labor. So by the way, we get the snapshot of fertility rates are going down. We see that on Instagram. We don't do any research. And then all of a sudden it gets planted in our head that, oh my God, the clock is ticking. I'm 28 years old. Well, I have this situationship over here. You know what? He's got good genes. Let me baby trap him. It's not a conscious thought, but it's an unconscious one. And none of us are taking that data point that we see on Instagram and going deeper into the research. And again, from a professional place of concern, that is wildly alarming, because from my perspective as a woman, we need more women to be able to see a bigger scope of what the data is presenting, a bigger scope of what our biology is capable of with increased healthcare systems and improved technologies, and the support and wanting of other people, encouraging you as a woman to be more empowered. And this isn't just about female empowerment. When women benefit from this narrative that there's more to them than just creating and generating life, the entire world benefits from that, because it's a narrative that's gotten so small to where the only box that women feel as though they are capable of actually having any mark on in society is the one which comes between their legs. And that's just not okay. So again, this topic is very obviously charged. There are people that are going through baby traps. There are people that we know that are experiencing this and getting baby trapped because this narrative is just planted.
Men and women.
Yep. And have no actual clinical data supporting what they saw on Instagram and then got a hold on and latched onto. So it's a whole thing, and I am off my soapbox now.
The final thing that I will say, and I have said this before, and people might get mad at me for it, and that's okay, but the truth is the truth. Just because you are biologically capable of having a child does not mean you should have one. And the grand majority of people who have ever had children never should have had them, because they were not physically, mentally, and emotionally and financially capable of actually having that child. That's like me saying, I want a Bugatti. And I'm going to go to the car store and I can fudge my numbers a little bit and I'm going to get a Bugatti, but I can't afford it. And I'm going to go bankrupt for it. And I'm not going to be able to pay the bills for it. And what I'm going to actually do once it gets so bad is I'm just going to crash the car to claim insurance fraud. That way I don't have to deal with it. You know what the difference between that and a baby is? You can't insurance fraud your way out of having a baby. So now you have that child. And that child is suffering significantly because you and the other parent, or you on your own, aren't actually capable of caring for that child. So you're taking all of your trauma and all of your burdens out on that child, and then that child grows up believing something is wrong with them. And then the cycle continues. Or what people do is they'll give their children up to DCF. The child gets taken out of their custody, and now we have another child in the welfare system who is never going to be taken care of, who's going to experience severe abuse and harm and neglect. And then the cycle continues again. Just because you want a child doesn't mean you should have one. I want a $50 million home. It doesn't mean I should have one because I can't afford it. And I'm not in a responsible place enough to where that's an intelligent choice. And this narrative that we're supposed to have children is making this world a worse place. If you can't take care of you, how the hell are you going to take care of a child? And again, that's why me and Emilia do not have children, because we're actually being intelligent.
And here's the thing, a lot of people are going to get so angry with this episode, and again, feel the feels, because I think that when you have two people that are in and out of the data, like, and then on the other side of that, we are speaking to the people who are byproducts of
the exact
this level of decision making. It's like, feelings versus data. Which one is more of the objective truth? I'm going to put this out there. Remember how I said I did that research of what it costs to bring a baby into this world? Now, this was just in the state of Massachusetts because this client's just so happened to be in this state. Bianca, I want you to take a guess. How much? And again, I know this is a ballpark and not necessarily fair because I know you haven't done research the way in which I have, so I put that out there. But how much do you think it costs, assuming that there's healthcare involved, assuming that, it's just the delivery, there's no complications, etc.?
Just like the actual process of giving birth to a child?
Yeah. Yep.
Couple 100,000 at least.
Mm. So the data was, the research kind of pointed to in the state of Massachusetts, if you have healthcare, if there's no complications, just around and above anywhere, it was around $10,000 to $30,000 with all of that, no complications. This doesn't include the before and the aftercare. So when you
with
just said
health insurance,
when you just said a couple $100,000, the estimated cost to actually have a child born into, let's say, a middle income family, and this is not just in the state of Massachusetts, this is in the United States, to raise them to about 18, ranges, again, no complications, which, by the way, there's
Never.
little nuances between, I want to say it's, the last time I checked, it was $319,000. And that's just with basic needs.
That's nothing else included. I saw this stat that the amount of money that you end up spending on a child from when they're born to when they're 18 years old is over $1 million per child.
Yes, that is more true than people actually want to imagine. So now this is an interesting conversation because people actually don't think about how much they're going to actually make in that time frame. But what I am hearing on the ground floor, speaking to couples, speaking to people that are going through baby trapping, people who are literally on, child number 3 and going through this, no one actually has a plan to make sure that the basic needs plus the emotional needs plus the social needs plus all the other 160 plus needs that a child has are going to be covered. And so again, this narrative is so much bigger than just baby trapping. And we wanted to make sure that we got it out there because we are hearing what is happening in the real world with real people and real couples and real financial statements and what that is showing and how that's contributing to unnecessary expenses, unnecessary consumption, unnecessary pain, harm, and suffering to people around the world. And we can't help but echo those voices and echo the narratives and also call out the absolute BS that has been fed to clients, that has been fed to the community, that has been fed to and through our social media streams. And I want to end with an invitation on this episode. I want to end with an invitation towards inviting all of us to do more research. Anyone that's a part of the Evolve community, if you have a friend, you have a colleague, you think that they are going into a baby trap, you think that what they're saying is just absolute horse crap, you're recognizing that there's an emotional rationalization story that my eggs are getting too old or that this or that, or, she's in prime baby making years or whatever the narrative is. I think that it takes a community, it takes a society to help us all get better. And so if this is something that you're hearing, let's nip it in the bud, send this episode to someone, and I invite you to do more research than whatever your social media feed is showing, just the surface, right? Think about the iceberg. What you're seeing is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more data underneath that. And now more than ever, with information transfer happening at a rapid rate, I do believe it is our responsibility to get to the bottom of the actual truth, scientific truth, and then make effective decisions from there. Because when we make good decisions, it doesn't just benefit us, it benefits the world that is around us. And that has a systemic ripple effect that can really be positive or can have really destructive implications. And we as millennials know this all too well. Just go back in the data of how ignorant people were when it comes to resource management when it comes to climate change. So anyways, I'll put a lid on that one. In closing, my episode suggestion is 400. The ways avoidance is ruining your life. Bianca, closing sentiments and episode suggestion.
The people who are telling you that you're getting too old or that your eggs are drying up or whatever, what are they benefiting by telling you that? What are these research companies? What are these organizations? What are these people benefiting by telling you that and by you believing that? We don't like thinking that people are out for themselves and that there are people out there who are telling you something to sell you something, but it is the truth, and the more you know, the more informed decisions you can make. My episode suggestion is 424. Is it really better to be in a bad relationship than to be lonely? Like we said, This episode might be very triggering. That's okay. But again, to my question, what do people benefit by you hearing this? What do we benefit by telling you this? You become empowered. And the more people become empowered, the better this world can be. So, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time. Bye everybody.